Actually had something that I could possibly do on the live stream. Testing, testing. Nope, we got some sort of mic working at the moment. Although it's not a great mic. Testing, testing, testing. Okay. Stop streaming, stop recording. And then I think then we were last on here. So we were doing all the things ethics isn't. And I think we ended up on beliefs and belief systems. Told you to leave some room. And we ended up with this particular conundrum. Is what the goddess commands ethically right because right actions are right because she commands them? What God says is good. She commands them because they are right. God points out good things. I think this is a quite a famous problem. I mentioned last day, and I found let's see if sound works.
The book of Deuteronomy.
See how decent this clip is. And if I'm playing this, just have to record, I'm muting the screen so that I don't get a copyright violation. and take the sound back, and then to summarize it. There are independent standards that anyone can discover. Now, this is accepted by lots of theologians. It's also not accepted by many theologians. We're going to assume this. We're going to assume that this is kind of true for class, in the sense that we're going to assume that whatever ethical system that we pick, this is something that you can discover, and that you can use reason and logic to discover ethics that has an objective foundation that doesn't rest in a particular person. Because, of course, you wouldn't ask yourself at the end of the day, what would Eustace do? You should ask yourself, what would Mr. Neufeld do? Then you'd have a religion.
That's just wrong. Everybody knows that.
Oh, you could believe that, but is that what I would do? I don't think I would do that. There, I've given you a divine command. Divine command theory, anything the deity commands would be good. Now, this isn't saying that in divine command theory, the deity would command things like infanticide, murder, or anything else that we would say, well, that's obviously wrong. But in the theory, if it was commanded, it would be correct. There's an interesting study in which they would take texts of a variety of religious texts, and they would rewrite them so that the people in them were changed. So they would take a text from the Bible, they would take a text from the Quran, they would take a text from different sources, and they would usually take texts in which something bad happened to the other side. And then they would rewrite it so it was reversed. And then they would ask people to rate the morality of what was going on, relying on the fact that most people don't remember their own religious texts in detail. And who's doing the smiting changes whether or not we think it's correct, obviously. So there is this built in. Well, if God commanded the infanticide, it must be correct. But if you put anybody else in there, obviously it isn't. And so that creates a problem with where are we getting this that might actually be wrong. Now, if you're a divine command theorist, you're like, the divine command is the only way to go. That is still perfectly fine within the context of ethics, this class. Anywhere else, it is probably the most widely held ethical belief in the entire world. We just can't use it to apply to other people. Most countries have a law saying we cannot apply religious beliefs to other people. Canada has one. The UK weirdly does. What is the UK version? In the US, you have freedom from and to any particular religion. In Canada, we also do. The UK, however, have something slightly different.
Oh, is it like secularism?
No, Canada's secular. The United States is secular. This school, by the way, is incredibly unusual as a private school because we're secular. There's no church you have to go to on Sunday or Saturday. If you went to Shawnigan, every Saturday morning, you'd get up and go to church, and then you'd go to sport. I think. Do they have classes on Saturday too? I can't remember. But they have a nice little chapel. They have a religious service. And their chapel exists because they are based, much like we are, on a system that is old and British. We used to have a chapel. It still stands. It's across the water in Brentwood Bay. And our entire school burned down except for the chapel. So the chapel's there. So when we restarted, we didn't build a new chapel. And for that, almost by historical accident, we became a secular school. Why would British-based schools always have a chapel? Who died recently? The Queen. What is the Queen the head of?
Monarchy.
Commonwealth.
The Commonwealth, the monarchy. Yes? Pardon? The royal family, yes. Have you heard of the Anglican Church?
Yes,
What is the Anglican Church?
it's like a church, but it's like the king or queen has the God-given right to rule over land.
Instead of the Pope, the Anglican Church had the Queen. The head of the royal family is the head of the church, and the Anglican Church is the official state religion of the UK. So the UK has laws saying that you can believe in whatever religion you want, but the state itself collects taxes to support the church, and the church is a part of their national government. There are official representatives in their government that actually represent the church. Anglican Church is also known as the Church of England for that reason. A long time ago, there was a king who really wanted a divorce, and the Pope wouldn't give him one. So he said, I'm going to make my own religion in which I'm the head, and cut himself off from the Catholic Church, and they fought quite a few wars about it. Part of the part of the animosity, that's even the wrong word. The Irish are largely still Catholic, and I do remember a tale back when what they call the Troubles, in which Ireland and the UK were actively fighting a little bit more often in terms of the occupation of Northern Ireland. And a Canadian tourist who told, I don't know them well, but they told the story that they were stopped at a checkpoint because they were searching the cars for bombs, and they wanted to know if they were Catholic or Protestant, which is another way of saying, are you on the English side or are you on the Irish side? And he said, I'm neither, I'm atheist. And he goes, yeah, but are you atheist Catholic or atheist Anglican? And I thought that was a very interesting way to put it for what is entirely a political problem as opposed to a religious problem. So yeah, divine command theory, the divine command, we know exactly what God wants. We used to ask the Queen, but now we'll ask King Charles. And King Charles will tell us what God wants, if you're Anglican. Okay, we don't need to, this is more than sufficient. The next thing, no, we're going to come back to that one. All the way down to natural law. So we've been doing what, actually, that would be a good exercise. Before we do that, toolkit, group maker, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That works out quite well. I'm going to get you in some groups. One of the exercises I think would be useful, especially for the next section as we go into deontology, having just done now, you may have to look up some of this. One. Now, I am going to be a bit Christocentric with this. You can look them up. I'm not sure everybody knows what the 10 Commandments actually are, but just establish what they are. And then, which one of those do you think I'll rewrite this to say what I'm saying now. That was just to remind me. Which do you think which are actually moral commandments? If you think all of them are, that's fine. Which ones just seem to be like maybe good advice, maybe something you should do, but don't really seem like moral laws, if any? And if they do seem like moral laws, what would be the reasoning if you had to convince someone that that was right? Then, if you were able to be, like Eustace, the divine command, what would the 10 commandments that you would put into place? As your group, is there anything missing there? I'll give you an idea. One that's commonly mentioned is that it includes very little about the environment in the 10 commandments and whether or not we're allowed to use it in the way that people want to use it. And there may be other things that's missing from the 10 commandments. So your groups to discuss this are those. Find your people. Partway through, I am going to switch you so you look at other people's.
I don't know anything, and I'm not Christian.
You know the word infinite.
What are the 10?
I don't know.
That's a very common word.
Oh, if I can get your attention. Sorry, one more thing. If there's someone among you who's like, I don't want to do the 10 commandments, I have this other version of commandments from a different religious background, go ahead. But one student do that, and they came up, they had a section, it was like 152. Whatever the number is, keep it small if you'd like to switch it. I'm picking this because I'm more familiar with the 10 commandments. But if your group is familiar with a different set, it's totally fine with me. You can switch the religion as much as you want. Has everybody got the group? Okay.
So, do you guys want to agree that murder is bad?
Well,
Why is this a problem
I
for
would
you guys?
murder
Jesus.
someone if they murdered my family, okay? Oh, I would kill someone if I thought they were about to kill someone else. Murder is not always bad, but obviously I would try to stop them first, but like, if it came to it, I
straight up don't understand commandments as
Search it up. Okay.
No, I don't understand why they're wrong.
No, but what are they? That's the question.
It's like love your mom and dad.
What?
And don't be mean to your neighbors. And,
Really?
Yeah.
Are you serious? No, one of them is love your neighbors like brothers and sisters.
Oh, that's so cute.
What? I like my neighbors. They're very nice.
Like, what if your neighbors are like
Angels? Well, then don't love them.
No. No, but even the 10 commandments. Come on.
No, I'm not Christian, actually. I'm atheist.
Wait, so all Christians love their neighbors?
Well, not necessarily.
You try really, really hard. You're not allowed to want things. Covet. You're not supposed to commit adultery. What does adultery? Is it just like
Cheating.
yeah?
What is adultery?
Is there any other?
What's the second
Is
thing?
there any other definition?
I think it's really broad.
Yeah. Shall not steal. What if you're like
Poor.
poor and
I would
dying?
let poor people steal.
Yeah. Should the poor person die? Is their life less important than this one commandment? Is the human life less important than Christianity?
No other god. Make idols? What about not K-pop boys? No K-pop?
No K-pop.
What's Sabbath day?
Sabbath. It's on Sunday, and you're not supposed to do anything.
Well, I mean, I'm lying about it.
You're supposed to pray.
How do you know this?
Because I watch TV.
Not your neighbor.
TV has so many references to Judaism.
Wait, why can't you have idols?
So somebody lived in China, they can
Like your mom?
Idols.
Should my mom be my idol?
It's like idols of other religions.
Yeah, but that's no other.
Do you know about the Boxer Rebellion in China?
Marries a person.
Anyways, like people destroy religious idols of other religions.
Yeah.
Like,
Not agree.
so if you have statues or structures, paintings,
Well,
other gods that are not,
what if you can't get into war?
What if your father and mother were abusive?
Because for
you're still supposed to walk. That's
before the
Ten
1500s,
Commandments.
you couldn't get into war.
Anyways, that's why I don't think
Right.
Ten
I
Commandments
don't.
exist.
Wait, I'm so like. How did people like marriage?
Okay, you shall not murder seems like a moral standard, but then there's also like caveats to that, like
I think
self-defense
self-defense
and assisted death.
It's like in the modern age, not permitting adult food seems like a fair
It's so complicated. If you
Okay.
want to get into like Bible stuff, it's
Wait, and also
nobody really.
how does like talk to people? Like, do they just go to
Why
sleep?
is that?
There's
Like,
prophets.
7:1.
Question number 2. I don't know. Like, what if like God never actually talked to anyone, and the prophets are just making stuff up?
It's entirely possible. I mean, that's religion is made by
You're
us.
married to someone.
No.
And that's my view.
What
As
are prophets?
no prophet. P-R-O-P.
We shouldn't do it, but whatever.
Agrees that they have like heard from God or received some message from God and they know things that you don't.
How do they talk to
Prophecy.
How do they talk to God? Mr. Newt,
Mm-hmm.
how do people talk to God? Like, do they go to sleep and then like he says something?
I think you'd have to ask people because everybody does it differently. I don't think there's every religion has people that claim that they have talked to God. Some just say that he moves their thoughts and they know what he thinks. Some do it by studying the text very closely and say that they can identify what God wants through the text. There's depending on the religion, they may consider the text divinely inspired, as in it cannot be incorrect. The only thing that could be incorrect is your individual interpretation of it.
But hasn't the text been like translated a bunch and it's like a lot of it's like incorrect?
Well, that would assume that every translator wasn't also divinely inspired.
I don't like that.
The problem has been, if you're a theologian though, that would be the reason some of them give. Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
if you believe that Jesus would, or not Jesus, if you believe that God created everything, what created me? That's also so complicated.
Like, it really depends who you ask.
Probable that there was some prophet. Well, he was in the Middle East, so Nazareth was like, where was it? I don't know. It was like in the Middle East somewhere. So he probably wasn't white. Okay, it was like somewhere there later.
Was the lady white?
The lady?
Well, no.
Virgin Mary? Probably not. She's from the area. I don't know the Bible that well. No. I mean, the Middle East is technically relatively close to Greece.
Wait, why would you? Yes, because you can't get into it. Exactly. I know, like, it's like a good one.
So we agree with all these good advice. I don't know.
But that's not like against the law, is it?
Beautiful voice. It's great.
Yeah.
What's funny?
If you believe that
We agree that all these are
if
false.
you believe that the Bible is fake just because it's written by people through history, you believe that history books are fake because they've been
Stop it.
Are like,
never
I think
you shall have no other God before me.
historians like can't stop themselves from having implicit bias.
Now, as you're discussing through, hopefully by now you know what the Ten Commandments are, and you're in this section of which one of them are moral rules and which ones seem to be perhaps other kinds of rules. If your group is like they're all moral rules, this is fine. And for the ones that are more rules, what reasoning would you give to back that up? So I heard right away someone said, are we all going to agree that murder is wrong? And there was some disagreement with that right away. But regardless, for the ones that seem are more rules, what are the which ones would you keep is another way of phrasing this one.
None of them are moral, so they're good suggestions. But you don't have to do it. We don't have to. No, I think it's more like I'm not trying to show you. Yeah, exactly.
Well, you can look at the sources that they come from, the sources.
It's a good idea. But
How is that not nice?
Yeah.
Being a musician
Sure.
is
But also
fake.
it can happen. Sure, it's so fake.
Sure is not fake.
Why do we this? Why we can all be our idols? So I didn't like don't lie about there's actions.
yeah. But I'm fairly
Testing, testing, testing. Testing. Oh, I should post that.
Yeah.
Ignore.
So, are we making like 10 commandments or not? Or so just
Don't kill unless you have a good reason.
Okay, but when you make commandments, how can you otherwise it's wrong. But then it's like if you're writing a legislature, you can't include every single claim because that would be ridiculously long and extensive here. So how do you write commands that are right and that people can actually follow?
well, what we agree is always wrong.
Genocide is, yes, bad.
Okay, so there we go. We got one.
Excellent. I think it's a good start. Good start there. Oh, sorry. I will put this back in case you need it.
If there's
Yeah, they are.
human genocide. Okay, what if
Human genocide is wrong. Let's say
Yeah.
human genocide is wrong.
Well, what if they were bad human?
Well, genocide is still bad.
Yeah, you can't kill off an entire like culture. Like it's never right.
Genocide is still bad because if you
Genocided the genocide?
no, killing the Nazis makes you the Nazis.
Yeah. Because not everybody in Germany.
Okay, that sounds
wanted to
wrong.
kill,
But
like
killing an entire race makes you a bad person.
What if it was like a mutant of a human that just ate other humans?
well, then it's,
Would that be an animal or a human?
Is that non-human?
Like it's a human, but
like cannibal.
sure.
Well, like insane people.
How about we have a rule that every
I mean, I would.
I like in many ways where this is going because you're inventing new types of humans that can always be wrong. But I will say there's a thing in philosophy where your mental experiments start getting so wide you're losing the focus of the discussion. Bring it back to are humans.
Okay, fine. Normal humans.
Normal humans.
Genocide is bad.
Yeah, okay, 1 commandment out of 10. Let's go. We need 9. Write this down so I know.
Don't tell me what to do. I'm not God.
Please write this down like that.
I'll write it in my little notebook.
We've been about 8 or 9 minutes. At this point in your group, what I would like you to do is come up with some commandments, or if you're like, these were good-ish, but they didn't have enough like exemptions or other things, like they needed to be altered, or alter the ones that are there in a way that would make them good, or add ones that you think are needed. And you can pull some out, put some in. So some new commandments that you think that would actually work. Some that we need. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes.
Consent is still way too broad. And also, kids don't develop right.
Okay, what if they're just
Wait,
friends or
I can
but then
send anything
I feel like if we're gonna be specific about it,
You're under legal
I just
assistance.
said
No, you can't object to surgery at your age.
What? That's insane.
Right?
What?
She can't object to like life-saving surgery at her age.
Oh, we're going to get to that, and the secret answer is yes. Not even all that secret. The province of British Columbia has really strong, you're what's considered a mature minor, which means they will treat you as an adult as long as the doctor believes you have the mental capacity of an adult. However, if you are choosing for life-saving surgery and your parents are against it, the most modern interpretation that would come up is like, if you wanted the COVID vaccine and your parents said no, you could get it. The doctor could just give it to you and never even tell your parents. Now, if you wanted to refuse the vaccine, your parents said yes, they're much less likely to consider you smart enough. However, children have, in BC, refused things like cancer treatment because they're like, the risks there are too high, I don't want chemotherapy. So children have refused life-saving treatment as young as 11 in the province of British Columbia. So, pardon?
Yes, that's
Yeah. So,
Abortion without your parents now.
oh yeah.
They have to like contact. I don't care about adultery.
Yeah, the abortion is considered healthcare in Canada and in BC, and you could, yes. Now, the reason I'm hesitating is because there's a lot of logistics that go getting there, having a place to be cared for afterwards, that have to go into that. But the actual procedure itself could be done entirely without your parents' knowledge. You can go up to the local. Well, I don't know if you can go to the local pharmacy because I don't know if they would. But it is legal, like if you go and ask for the morning after pill from any pharmacy theoretically in BC, it doesn't require prescription, it doesn't require parental consent. It might cost money if you don't have insurance. For example, however, the problem with insurance is it tells people that don't need to know what you're getting. And so I know our own health center has sometimes billed things as not birth control because they wanted birth control. So they'll bill it as something else.
Laundry charges or something.
Yeah, something in there like a consult with something, just because you have a right to privacy in your own healthcare. If you meet with a doctor, your parents aren't in the room, the doctor is not allowed to communicate it to your parents if you don't want them to.
Do you want to say privacy's
no, I know. I just feel like if the ones that we feel are moral.
yes.
do not intentionally commit. Oh wait, no.
Oh, I like it. I ask you to invent some morals, just go find some morals. Some morals that look good, grab those. Yeah, that's what I do for everything. Someone on the internet has already discovered the answer. That's true.
Yeah, but then that's legal. You can shoot them, but you can't.
Okay, at this point, I'm hoping that you've come up with at least a couple, either changes or new ones. And what I'm going to ask you to do, oh, hold it, where did it go? Is I'm going to put you in a new group, and I just want you to share with that group, give everybody a chance to speak, what the ones that your group came up with. So that you can see what a different group might have done.
We have 5, it's fine.
And
We don't need 10 commandments. Which one sounds
I know this is not perfect at mixing up groups. You might end up with the same, two people might be the same in the group. I don't know how well it redoes it. But as long as there's at least one different person in each group. Okay, find new people.
Human genocide is bad. Rights, privacy, protect the environment, no torture, intentional cruelty, and no slavery.
Did it keep you two the same? The group?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we had like 5 of the group. Okay. We have the same one. So first 5. Honor parents.
I personally don't think he's
Abby!
I'm serious.
We didn't write that. It's like on their parents. Okay. And then don't lie about like actions unless it's like official testimony. So like there are like don't lie about cheating unless you're not doing it. I don't know. It just seems right. Like it's like like opportunity like sell out. What if I don't like those? So I'll be like, oh yeah, like she preferred it, like even if you didn't. I just thought it was but that's like
Okay, Abby, stop.
like that about it. I saved you from getting beat up by missiles, so be grateful. Okay, and then like be faithful to your partner unless like they like
No unnecessary cruelty / torture.
yeah.
And then there's one
Even
more.
if you think they're a nice person, for don't like commit acts of murder.
Can you read out loud our commandments? Human genocide is bad. That is why we're trying to break the privacy, protect the environment, no torture /
No, I already said that.
no slavery.
No
slavery.
slavery.
Yeah, well then you quarantine them and then let them all die.
But you're still committing genocide.
And the virus is committing genocide.
But you're condoning. You're still accountable.
Yeah, but if you quarantine and are infected, then let it not.
That's a lot of
If you are killing yourself,
Mm-hmm.
Is animal slavery like slavery?
Is it?
Is it?
Why? I'm more interested to know why you're asking the questions. Do you think animal slavery is slavery?
But it says no slavery, but does that
Yeah.
also like can you slavery animals?
Can you?
I don't know.
I don't know.
That's not helping.
That's your moral system.
Yeah.
I thought you wanted to.
Most soldiers
If you have a slice, you slip your leg over your
so pretty much any
Okay.
does not stay.
So very smooth.
And then I think we come to the conclusion that
How was your
the
weekend?
only reason
Oh, are we trying to have a conversation? Yeah, me neither.
And 9:09. If I can get you back to your seats. Hopefully you've shared.
Ocean vessels. And for spaceships, David, spaceships are all from the Expanse, that show.
How many rules did you come up with? Now I just think that you're a fan of
I'm going to ask you to do a little bit of homework tonight. It'll pop up as this, Reflective 10 Commandments. In it, I'm asking what questions arose about the 10 Commandments. Were there any commandments you kept? Why did you keep them? Were there any commandments you changed or added? What was the justification for adding them? If not, what was your justification for not adding them? And that for not adding them was for the person who says, we didn't change anything, the 10 Commandments were perfect, here's how we justified that. Post that there. And because I did it very quickly, threw that up there at the moment, it doesn't have a rubric, but it will have what I'm looking for. If you have something, what would be proficient? You've got observation from your group. You mentioned some things that your group talked about. You reflect on them in terms of what you thought of them. And then you consider some extra in terms of the depth, why you did or did not consider that. The more sophisticated it is, the more it goes up into extending. The more simplistic it is, it goes down into emerging in terms of marking for that. But it's just a little 5-mark sort of thing that would normally be considered. So that should be posted now. And now we're going to go back to what ethics isn't. And this is a new page, and that's natural law. Come on. There we go. Natural law is the idea that if it occurs in nature, it is good. You will most likely see this in the best part of the grocery store and the worst part of the pharmacy. The best part of the grocery store is the part where they have all the fruits and vegetables. What would you say the best part of the grocery store is?
Where they have all of the nice meat and hamburgers.
Sure. You will also see it in that section too. I'm trying to avoid the candy aisle, basically.
What's the candy aisle?
It's not natural. We want it to be natural. If it is natural, it must be good. And to the point that they'll even have specific labeling to show how natural it is. They'll slap the label organic on some things that has met a certain criteria to whether or not it's natural. And so natural law theory is the idea that moral views are reflected in nature, and the world has those views inherently built into it. The laws of nature describe what is the case, and they tell us what ought to be. I remember many of the early arguments against something like gay marriage were that it was unnatural. And then some of the responses to that would be to point out all the areas in the animal kingdom in which relationships fit a wide variety of relationships, and heteronormative relationships are not the only type that are reflected, and there's nothing unnatural about them, which I think as a response missed the point. Going to the grocery store in clothing to buy things with currency that is on paper or virtual is probably the most unnatural thing that you can do, and no one has an objection to it because it's unnatural. We do unnatural things all the time. And unnatural just means, in its most basic sense, human-made. If you're talking about things from nature, well, we run into an even bigger problem. because we're humans. Are humans a part of nature? What kind of animal are we? Homo sapiens, but in the animal kingdom, where are we? Monkeys and us, we are definitely mammals, and monkeys are mammals. Monkeys and us share a common ancestor, but there's actually a species more closer to us. And we're in the same group as them, pardon? Chimpanzee is even closer than most monkeys. Because a chimpanzee is what group of animals?
Oh my God.
Apes. How do you know we're an ape? Like, how do you look at something and know that's a monkey, that's an ape? Yeah. Monkeys and apes both kind of do that. And it's weird when they do, because all of a sudden they look very human. If you want to tell the difference very quickly, you just have to look at whether or not it has a tail. I was once in Toys R Us, and they had a big banner up, stuffed monkeys, and they had all these stuffed monkeys you could buy. And I was a little upset. I exclaimed quite loudly that those were not monkeys, because they had orangutans as the stuffed creature. And they called them monkeys, the poor orangutans. Orangutans are great apes, just like we are. They have no tail. We identify ourselves as apes because you can tell we lost our tail as all the apes did. We are definitely within the natural order. We're part of a mammal group. We're part of a great ape group. We are right in the system. So if we're part of nature, let's consider something like a beaver. Is a beaver dam natural? No? Yeah?
I think it is.
Why is it natural?
Well, I mean, that's just what they've been doing for like millions of years, right?
Probably at least thousands, yeah. Right. And they built it,
Yeah.
even though it's artificial.
But you could argue that it does get a little blurry because what we've been doing for thousands of years is unnatural.
Is it?
Or, well, that's what people say.
No, I'm asking what people say. I'm like, is it unnatural?
I think once we're starting to alter the, like once climate change is involved, it becomes unnatural and bad.
Change happens all the time.
Yeah, but
Oh.
once you start accelerating it.
One second. I'm going to go to the back, and then I'll come back to that. Yeah?
Well, like, if you think about it, beaver dams are natural because you need shelter to live. Just
Yeah?
like, when you think of it, homes are like technically natural because you need it.
You need shelter to live. Just in terms of damage to the environment, there's a walk. If you go up past, across the highway, past the McDonald's, you curve around on that road, past the Tim Hortons. There's a little path down to the right. It's marked. It's part of a nature trail there. When you get down to the beaver dam, you'll find a sign that's saying it's closed that you probably should have known about before you started. And it's closed because a beaver took over that area 2 years ago and completely blocked it all off. It flooded. It destroyed a bridge that was there because when the rains happened, it was all blocked off, and so the water didn't have anywhere to go, and it washed a lot out. And it destroyed the habitat for a lot of creatures that were living there. It made a different habitat. It was a lot more marshy now, but a lot of stuff that was there was washed away and removed. So in one sense, they do create their own home, but they will also destroy homes for others, while creating perhaps duck ponds for other creatures as well.
And technically, they're killing a bunch of other stuff.
Beavers can do a lot of damage. And now this is a complete aside. Logging is one of the most dangerous professions you can do, and that is also true of beavers. We find beaver skeletons with their tails trapped in logs that they felled all the time. They don't know which way it's going to fall once they chew it all down half the time as well. It's a very dangerous niche.
Also, you consider whether beavers have any idea of morality.
Can a beaver do anything wrong if they don't know the consequences of their actions? Is that what you're kind of, if they don't know? Yeah. I was going to save this for later. No, I will save it for later. There is some indication that mammals do have a sense of morality. I'm going to show you a few classes from now in which some monkeys do, but they've since replicated it with dogs and other animals. They do have a rudimentary sense. Now, whether or not they know the impact of what they're doing, that would withstand. Now, someone said if you involve climate change, it's not natural. Where did that come from?
Then if you kill a
Is
bunch
that here?
of trees, could be considered
Sure.
climate change.
Consider a petri dish. Does anybody not know what a petri dish is something we use in the lab. We put basically a very purified form of seaweed on the bottom. It's clear, and then we can grow bacteria on it. If you grow bacteria in food, they will expand until they consume all the food, and then they die. And then the whole petri dish just dies in a massive bacterial genocide. Is that a natural process? Expanding and eating all the food available and creating babies.
That's what some people consider the biological imperative.
Biological imperative. If you give any organism lots of food and the ability to have babies, they will consume and create and make babies until the environment is destroyed. Animals don't tend to limit themselves. They may have predators that limit them, and those predators may increase in number when there are more of them, and then it may end up being self-limiting. But in any system we've had in which we remove the predator, the species will expand. We're, as far as I know, one of the very few species that actually limits our own procreation. We invented a variety of methods to ensure we don't have children, and then we make sure that we don't, because I don't know if you've noticed this, but children are expensive. You have to send them to Brentwood College. Every year, that's like taking a brand new car and just pushing it into the ocean. And what do you get out of it? Not really much. They say they know more things, but do they really? You could just put them on Zoom classes for a lot cheaper. But then again, they wouldn't have been able to travel around the world without you if they didn't send you here. How many of your parents, left for a grand world tour immediately after you came here? Now you know the reason. One of the problems with natural law theory is that our definitions in good and evil don't really seem to match with natural and unnatural. And natural itself seems to be almost a misnomer. We often use it to mean human-made. I almost said man-made. Nowadays, that's a bit too genderfied. However, it is actually in Old English. It would have been. Does anybody know if the origin of the word woman? Linguistically, just found this out from an English teacher the other day. I thought that was interesting. Woman comes from wifman. That doesn't mean wife, by the way. Different origin. It just meant a female person. That just meant person. Not male, not female, just person. So a female person. The original term for a man was were, which is where we get terms like werewolf. And it's still rooted in there. The origin of then when we said man-made, it was just person-made. And then the men apparently took over the word man to mean only them, as sometimes they do in so many other areas. For our examples, I want you to give me some examples of either a natural evil or an unnatural good. And we'll just start here and we'll go all the way around the class so we fill them up. Something good that's unnatural or something natural that you would consider evil. You can think of no bad.
When, like,
Lions killing gazelles? It is sad. Hold it. Now that you say that, I just realized I had a link. Before we continue that, this might be useful. Again, I don't want copyright strikes, so I'm going to have to turn off the... what time does this class end?